Wait, Simon, why don't you post this Christmas Truce video in December near Christmas?
Hey, Captain Saberbro, head admin of the Discord, which you guys should just totally join. Be quiet. I post stuff when I want to. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Nights of the Alternate Histories. I'm recording this in a different spot because I need to get this done, and my room's not an option. So, yeah. I did a poll where I asked if you want guys to keep Alternate Histories or replace it, and it was a pretty mixed bag, so we are keeping it. But in between the alternate history parts, we're going to include wacky histories, which I hope you guys like. And yeah, let's get into the alternate histories. First, let's get some actual histories. The Christmas Truce of 1914 was primarily between British and German forces. The French and Belgians usually silenced out German caroling with machine gun fire, though one time people did actually come together when it was raining and both the French and the Germans came out and decided to have peace. The Christmas truce lasted up to about 2 weeks, but what if it lasted longer? December 1914, and the borders of that front line looks like this. Now, Germany has pressed deep into French territory and Belgian territory, with the British helping defend it, and pushing heavily against Russia, who's about to collapse. But what if the armies just stopped fighting all of a sudden, decide to come together on Christmas and stop the war? Now, the first thing to say is, not all of the generals would want. They would order their men to fight, but they would have to refuse. So this would mean mass executions at first, but eventually the armies would just pack up and return home. This would mainly be the German army who would pack home, as the British would probably flee to France, and the French and Belgians would keep on pushing deep into side German territory, but overall not executing troops, leaving them or just capturing them. Meanwhile, Kaiser Wilhelm II, not wanting a big war, as you can see with the Willie and Nicky letters, would overall be for this, would want his armies to come home, but his general staff wouldn't allow this, and they would keep on pushing against Russia. Also in this part would be the Communist Party / Socialist parties, and they would form a monarcho-syndicalist alliance, trying to hold together to bring all of the troops home. Now, most of the Rhineland would be taken up, and this being the primary industrial size of Germany, this would be seen as a major loss and would hurt the war machine, besides all of the desertions. And now most German armies would be fleeing to Switzerland, or fleeing to get the Kaiser on their side, even though he already was, but to make him truly say, yeah, let's do this, and override his general staff. With these German states and German armies returning home, this would see major uprisings in the major German cities. This is because the armies would get back home just to be told to go back and fight again. Now Austria itself would start getting invaded, and things would start getting worried. Now, a lot of the Russian armies would have to be pulled back, but still they would pull off of the Austrian front, keep on fighting on the German front. Hamburg would be one of the first ones to be released, but Berlin, being with the main home guard, loyal to the general staff rather than the Kaiser, would be the ones who would actually start fighting, and the Kaiser would rally around this, saying, if you're a true German, you're gonna support me. So a lot of the palace guards / ex-German soldiers fighting on the front line would be fighting the Kaiser, while the others would be fighting to try and kill him. And this would lead to kind of a two-party alliance system starting to form. The conservatives, who would want to try and crush France still and get those traitorous German soldiers back onto the front lines and penal battalions, and the Communist parties / monarchist parties, who would want to rally around the Kaiser and try and support him. So this would see a lot of more violence on the street, kind of the Weimar Republic era, with political groups trying to fight each other openly, as well as the... Now, Willie and Nicky would write to each other again, saying, let's stop going to war. Just so my people are happy, give us the territories, and maybe I won't get executed because I kind of betrayed my general staff and my main parliamentary system. And Nikki would agree to this, and the Eastern Front would be over, except for in Austria. This is when Kaiser Wilhelm would officially join the Entente powers, declaring himself loyal to it. With the Entente just barely outside, he would be confident that they would break him free anytime from his siege. And overall, he would be right. The Entente would be ready to try and break him out of Berlin. Meanwhile, Austria would slowly start to fall more and more, and the Russian Pact being formed to try and get land for Russia. Now, the Battle of Berlin would begin and would see fast-paced warfare. But there would be one problem. No one would find Kaiser Wilhelm. Bohemia would also start to get invaded, and Italy would now join the war, invading the lower part of Austria while the Entente still hits the front part. And Austria-Hungary would begin its collapse, with now civil uprisings exploiting the government, and Austria-Hungary would be spread thin. Wilhelm II would just be executed. Because the castle was under siege and the uprising was crushed, he'd be more of a political prisoner. And with his allies almost breaking free, there would be really no option. So, to try at last ditch and get some effort for being the real German army, they would execute him, and this would seal the deal for Germany. This would just destroy all faith. Now only the Home Guard would be the only ones really loyal to Germany, because even then, a lot of them would desert because they killed the Kaiser. And the Kaiser was looking out for them by trying to bring them home safely. Austria-Hungary would still try and fight, but now it would basically over, with Germany now finally uniting under one flag again. Now, Austria-Hungary would just collapse. With Vienna being taken and Budapest almost falling as well, there would really be no point. And with their major ally gone, they would just surrender, hoping that maybe the Entente/Russian powers would be kind to them, as already it's been divided up into German puppet states/French puppet states because they couldn't take back Alsace-Lorraine. And Russia would agree to the peace with the Entente. Bohemia would become independent as well. Poland, Belarus, Latvia, and Lithuania would also keep their nation. Yugoslavia would be formed, as well as minor Russian republics on the outskirts to try and influence more stuff. Italy would take a lot more land than they did in our timeline. And overall, most of it would be a pretty standard peace deal besides random drawn line. Here is the map of the loyalties. Of course, the three cousins would stick together, trying to support themselves, and a lot of powers would just wish to stay neutral. Italy would try and unite with some of its former allies that they did betray, and Russia might have taken more land because they lost some, and France definitely would have a lot more puppet states, and Germany wouldn't get any because, well, they frankly didn't deserve it. And at the end of the war, lastly, Prince Wilhelm, now Kaiser Wilhelm III, would be coronated, and they would simply be ready to work with his cousins to try and fight and hope that he can try and stop what happened to his father by trying to maintain peace in Europe. And if you want to learn now, watch part 2 coming in 2 weeks. Hey everyone, hope you enjoyed this video. So as I mentioned, wacky histories are coming, and these alternate histories will be seen if it doesn't get a lot of views, because this one was fun making, but a lot of them get boring to make and kind of repetitive. But this also means longer alternate histories because I want to expand on the series rather than just keeping them, because that's kind of boring with not being able to expand on the world. And yeah, hope you guys enjoy. Wow, what a great video. I say you subscribe, And click the video on the left, not the video on the right like those other nerds. You don't want to be a nerd, do you? Let's be honest, we're all nerds. Except for you, Timmy. You're pretty cool.